All right, here we go. Hey, welcome everyone. Good to have you all with us. Thanks for joining us. Beth there in the upper left, me. April, welcome back, April. Always good to see you. And with April is Carrie, who is going to impart knowledge upon us. So, yes. And that other vertical thing that you won't see that when we actually look at things. So the exhibit is Forgotten Needlework Tools, and that's as April said, there's still some of it getting put together yet. We're getting this fresh. So there's a lot of stuff in cases, some things on the walls. I'm just going to shut up. April, do it. Go.
Hey everyone. So welcome to our April exhibition. Coincidence. Forgotten Needlework Tools. So I'm here with Kerry Easton, who's a member of the Embroiderers Guild New South Wales, and also a member of the Needlework Tools Collector Society of Australia. So all the pieces you see here today are from the Needlework Tools Collectors Society. And I have touched the tip of the iceberg in this exhibition. So had to sort of make some kind of more narrow choice. And so we decided to focus on forgotten needlework tools. So things that we don't use very much anymore, people don't recognize.
Okay, April, I'm going to stop you. Would you mute your microphone and grab Carrie's and just use that? Because it's hard to hear
Mine
you.
is muted.
It's hard to hear you.
Can you hear me through this?
Yes, now I hear you.
Okay, I'll hand it back to Kerry in a second.
Yeah.
So should I do that again?
Yeah, do that again, please.
Okay, so sorry everyone. So, hi, as Gary mentioned, this is the Forgotten Needlework Tools exhibition. So, as I said, this is Kerry next to me. Kerry is from, sorry, of course, as I get a mic, suddenly I'm struck with a terrible disease. So Kerry is from the Embroiderers Guild New South Wales, and also from the Needlework Tools Collector Society of Australia. And so in this exhibition, I have completely touched the tip of the iceberg of what the kind of things the Needlework Tools Collector Society collects. So we're focusing on forgotten needlework tools, which is ones that people don't use anymore or might not even recognize potentially, because there's just so much to choose from. And as Gary mentioned, we're still technically installing the exhibition. All the large photographic panels are coming in later this morning. So you're getting a sneak preview before we properly open. I will hand over to Kerry now though, who can tell you a bit more about needlework collecting in Australia, and of course also all the beautiful tools we're going to have a look at. So I'll hand over to her and switch the camera around.
Okay, great, thanks.
Well, hello everybody, and thank you to the Embroiderers Guild for inviting us here today, and thanks Avril for joining us. I belong to the wonderful world of needlework tools, forgotten, current, everything, you name it, and we love it. It could be made today, and we love it just as much as antique pieces, and we love vintage as well. There's also collectors' societies around the world. So we're here in Australia, and we're also in we have members around the world, and I also belong to the American collectors group, which is TCI, Thimble Collectors International. Have a look at our website, have a look at their website, and the Dorset Thimble Collectors, Dorset Thimble Society in England, and there's the Finger Hut group in Germany. So, and there's so many more, I can't even think of the names. Everybody loves needlework tools, except people that hate using them. So if you love embroidery, you love needlework tools, and we even have a member who doesn't embroider. We have members who are lace makers. We have members who are collectors of various other things, And it all combines that we all love different components of needlework tools. And so because April loves sewing birds, that featured as part of this collection. And these have been loaned by many members in our society, and I thank them dearly for making our life so much easier. So there's a wonderful selection of really quite some amazing tools. There's chatelaines. They start at the 18th century, although the 18th century steel ones have actually got 19th century tools that went with the revival of the fashion changes. So 18th century fashions, heavy garments, huge skirts, big waistlines, could support the weight of a metal chatelaine, although in those days they were called equipages. Then with the entry of the raised waist for Regency fashions, with those beautiful high-waisted lightweight gowns, fashions changed. And suddenly you've got silk chatelaines, and you've got very lightweight ones, and you've got tiny little purses that people would make in netting to carry their items in. And then fashions changed again. The waistline dropped, and suddenly people are starting to wear chatelaines made from metal because the gown can support the weight of it. Then the waistlines changed. You've got the dip in the front, the V front. Think of Queen Victoria's wedding gown. So we're talking the 1840s there. Then you move into the 1850s where the gowns are, more noticeable waistline. And then you move through the Victorian era. And with silver discoveries in the USA, silver became very plentiful. So it was possible to produce these things, but, beautiful silver chatelaines at a price more available to general society. And you've also got, I'll talk about chatelaines in a moment, but they go in and out of fashion. In the 1850s, satirists in Punch magazine in England started sending up, because chatelaines were getting bigger and bigger, they started sending them up with cartoons of women wearing floor-length chatelaines with the kitchen kettle and all sorts of pots and pans hanging from them, because it was for ladies to do anything they felt like. And then there was another one with a lady with a chatelaine with 5 chains, all attached to children, the dog and the pram in the park. So suddenly people didn't want to wear them anymore, didn't want to be seen to be unfashionable. And so they went out of fashion until about the 1870s, silver boom in the States, in come chatelaines, because they're a wonderful way for manufacturers to sell silver products. And then it goes, you get to the 1900s, actually from 1870 onwards, you get silk chatelaines revived, and all sorts of patterns in Godey's and Peterson's magazines, in The Queen, in a number of other magazines, all showing patterns for ladies to make chatelaines and other tools for their work tables. So, it's all just fun through the centuries.
Yeah. Should we explain what chatelaines are, Kerry?
Chatelaines are usually, for needlework tools, they're an item with a waist plaque. And you attach that to the waist, and it's started as ornamental. It has the name chatelaine from the medieval ladies who would wear in the chateau. They would wear the keys to all the places, including a key where they kept their handmade needles locked up. But everything, that needed protecting, they had the key on their person, hanging from chains. And when they were, introduced as watch accessories in the 18th century, and 17th century, they were called equipages, the French word. And so it wasn't until 1828 that they became known as chatelaines. That was the first use in print of the term chatelaine for these. And the 2 ladies who wrote the wonderful book on chatelaines that's used worldwide, one of them, Genevieve, unearthed that little fact when she was researching things in libraries. And so the chatelaines vary.
Could you
in
repeat
price,
the name of the society? I'm sorry, I'm going to
that I
interrupt.
belong to?
We've been
Yeah. I belong
the
to the
society
Needlework Tool.
for the one in the US. Okay, sorry.
Oh, it's called TCI for short. It's Thimble Collectors International. It started as a Thimble Collectors Society. And if you look up their website, thimblecollectors.com, which is also on our website too, if you want, go to our links page, we're needleworktoolcollectors.org. And the Thimble Collectors Society in America, TCI, is probably 50-50 needlework tools and thimbles, because everyone, if you love one, you love the other usually. And so they've just really branched out and everyone collects everything these days. So hello to all the TCI people, because I'm a member there too. And you should go to Facebook and look at our page. And Dawn Roningen has got a page. You've had her on before.
Yes.
And she's got a page for vintage and antique needlework tools, where Facebook/needlework tools. So you can see our page there as well. Our website, I've already mentioned that. So on this first board, did you want to look at that?
Yes.
These are Victorian chatelaines. And the top centre, I stitched these to the boards. They were loaned by members. And as I stitched them on, I got to know them fairly well. Intimately, you might say, because what you see on a table at show and tell is not what you see when you're sitting right next to it and stitching it to a board. And so I realised that one lady had loaned me 3 chatelaines that all have cherubs or putty on them. And I said to her the other day, did you deliberately collect cherubs? And she said, no, they were just the ones available at the time that she wanted to buy a chatelaine. And so you can see that big one has got a lovely cherub in the waist plaque. So the construction of these is a waist plaque, usually with 3, 5 or 7 chains on them. And this one's got 5 chains. They break up the chains with a decorative piece in the centre of each chain, and some of them have entirely decorative chains. And this one is a typical needlework layout. On the right of it, you have a thimble holder in a beautiful acorn shape. Next to that, you have a round pinwheel. You can see they're all highly decorated. And then in the centre, you've got scissors in a scissors chatelaine, but the scissors have a loop so they slide up and down the chain in the centre and you can't lose them. Next to that is a fruit knife, which you might use for sharpening your quills or whatever. And next to that is an aide memoir. The little pencil is taken out while it's on exhibition, but it slides open, and you can see the little leaves inside that you would write your messages on.
Wow.
Oh.
Okay, I didn't get why we collected these things, but now I absolutely get it. Holy smokes.
And everyone is so different. So I'll show you the cherub ones first. This is another cherub one. There's a tiny cherub on the waist plaque at the top. Then it has a wider plaque below with a gentleman blowing the air. So one of the gods of whatever, the 4 winds or something. Thank you, April. And down the bottom here, the aide memoir has got a little cherub on it. And I think there's also a cherub on the thimble bucket. So this one's got a thimble bucket, which is open to sit the thimble in, rather than a container with a lid that snaps shut. So thimble bucket first on the right. Then there's a needle holder. Then we've got the aide memoir. Then we've got a little case that you can carry anything in, your stamps, your pills, whatever you wanted to do. And then a little scissors holder. The scissors have been taken out rather than having to do extra stitching to hold them in place. And then there's putty over on this one as they reach to pick the apples in the orchard, and little impish ones up the top.
Wow.
Oh my.
And having stitched these down is what prompted me to ask, did you collect just cherubs? But she said no.
Now, is this all sterling silver?
These ones I'm showing at the moment are sterling silver, yes.
It's gorgeous.
So you've got a needle case on the right, then a square book-shaped pin cushion, then a thimble bucket, then a winding tape measure with a tiny handle on the outside to wind the tape measure back in, and then the scissors holder.
Okay, now, Carrie, this is a real dumb guy question. These things are so beautiful.
Excellent.
These things are so beautiful. Were they actually used day to day, or were they more for show?
They were both.
Okay.
They were also made in base metals with silver plating and things like also brass with gilding on them. You wore them as you wished, usually in the home, because you wouldn't want them snatched when you're wearing them in public. But you would take them to your sewing group, if you have one, and you'd wear it there too. And your friends could all admire it. And then you'd admire whatever they had. So this is the fun way not to stitch.
Yes.
There's two finger ring chatelaines on this board as well. Not quite as pretty as these ones. That left one, I think, is around the turn of the 20th century, so around 1900. And it's got a little pill case on the right, an aide memoir, a tiny silver mesh purse, and a button hook, and then a little needle case. So it's not entirely embroidery or needlework, but it gets you through. And then the one on the right is another one with cherubs. I started grouping all cherubs on this one board, and that's a finger ring, I think, from around 1880 to 1900. And it has a little little pill box with cherubs on the front. So from the left, this one is a needle case, very decorative and beautiful needle case, and then a pill box with the cherubs. And then you've got a thimble holder, and those thimble holders have been reproduced these days. And so there's another modern chatelaine further along that's in the 18th century style, but it's entirely reproduction, put in just for interest. Then you've got a stamp box and a perfume bottle and a little mirror. Or is it a pinwheel? Goodness me, I don't remember.
Now, Carrie, from the silversmith, these come from silversmith or jewelers?
Both. The
Okay.
jewellers could, I don't know how the silversmiths sold them, but I know the Daniel Lowe Company had catalogues that they put out to jewellers, and there's trade cards, etc., throughout England and stuff showing, when you look closely at them, they show all the multiple things they sell, but they also show little chatelaines when you look there, or little equipages, or other things that you might like for sewing. So you just keep your eyes open. There are links back to our past. Down the bottom here is a chatelaine that is only scissors. So the scissors pull out.
Beth, did you have a question, Beth?
I had just a quick question. What, so when you say fingerling chatelaine, what does that mean?
Just finger chatelaine, finger ring chatelaine, because you could put that ring on your finger and then you could dance with them, or you could gesture to your friends gracefully. So that was just a ring instead of a waist plug.
I can't imagine holding that on my hand, though. It would be...
Well, you had to be careful with them, because when you've got one like the top centre, there's weight in those tools and chains. And if you've seen the original Secret Garden movie, it's got Maggie Smith as the housekeeper, and she's dressed in black as usual, and she enters a room with her hand held to her thigh. She's wearing a chatelaine, and she's stopping it from clanking as she walks, because if you walk with a chatelaine on, those tools hang down by gravity and they go clink, clank, clunk while you're walking, and you can't sneak up on anybody. Whereas I think the housekeepers was like children, the servant should be seen but not heard. So the housekeeper would enter the room with her hand holding the chatelaine, but frankly, anyone wearing a chatelaine wouldn't want to put their hand on it until they're ready to display it. And there's a little purse chatelaine in the middle, which is there because it's just beautiful, the little silver pansy. And so that's around 1900. And as far as I know, that's American. It's got a little silver mesh purse, and the top opens like a compact.
The metalwork is gorgeous.
Yes, they're beautiful, aren't they?
Okay, to put it in a male perspective, these things are like Swiss Army knives then, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
But prettier, Gary. They're prettier.
I know, April,
Yeah,
I know.
much prettier.
And like Swiss Army knives, they have lots and lots of accessories on them. When they got too many accessories, they went out of fashion, as I mentioned. And so next board, or do you want to take a break and look at a sewing bird?
Oh, let's keep going, chatelaines.
Okay, we'll move on to the next board, which is a mixture of base metal silver plate ones, and in the centre are two silver ones. So the silver one is yet another series of cherubs, or they putty. I have to put my glasses on to check. Little putty. So they would attend the cherubs, etc. And they're there because they're classical and beautiful, and the Victorians love children on anything. And this one is probably 1840 because it's got extra waist plaques hanging down that takes us back to the watch chatelaines that were worn decoratively. And it's got a silver scissors case that is also in reproduction, so you can buy copies of that now. It's got a little case to hold your thimble, again a fruit knife or a quill knife, and a pencil, and this little bucket would have held a little notebook to keep your notes in. And this top, the one down right, bottom, there's one of those reproductions. This entire thing is reproduction. Sorry about my hand in your way. So you can see on the right is a reproduction of that thimble case we saw on the previous board. And then they're all reproduction tools. I think they were brought out in the late 1990s. So it's in 18th century style, but it's basically brand new.
Yeah.
Now, the other four on the board are base metals. So you've got pot metals or you've got brass. And this one is brass with silver plate on it. It's got beautiful chains on it. There's a flower in the middle of every chain, every segment of the chain. There's cherubs at the top on each side. Lots and lots of decorative items on there. And all the pieces are original and match.
Oh, that's a gorgeous one.
Boy, these are
And
really a way for silversmiths or jewelers to show off their skills too.
That's right. And if they didn't make them, the jewellers could order them from the silversmith. They also had the catalogues, so ladies could order individual items and collect one a year on birthdays or Christmas or whatever.
Like Pandora charm bracelets.
Yes. And so sometimes they're all made in the 1 year, and sometimes they are made in, over the years as people collected pieces. Sometimes they match, the tools match. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're replacements when something goes missing. We don't mind. We don't discriminate. And as I said, I love new ones as well. Down the bottom right has a garden theme on it, and it's got a little pinwheel. On the left is the pinwheel. Then there's a little stamp box, and then a scissors holder. And then on the right is a little notebook, little aide-memoire. And the one on the left here has only 3 chains and is much simpler in its designs. And is possibly from the Indian area. I'm not sure about that one. And it's got very decorative pieces with it that all match, except for the pencil on the right that's been added at a later date. But that's a silver plate one as well.
And
So how did they keep?
Oh, go ahead, Beth. Go.
So how did they keep the silver polished? They just like
Probably
normal,
soft cloth.
I mean, all those little
Soft cloth and wear would polish it for you. And also, rub it on your dress. Make sure it's black so you don't stain. And also they're often kept put away. But if they're sterling, what comes off is a little silver oxide layer. So every time you take a layer off, you're actually removing some of the silvering. So if it's been polished a lot, like that one, it's lost a lot of the silver plating. You can have them restored, but I think sometimes that's a sign of their age and how much someone loved them.
And always an odd number of chains?
Usually, yes. So 3, 5 and 7 are the ones I generally know. But then to prove the point, there's one further along with 4 chains.
Okay.
So we'll move along now.
Always accept, yeah.
So this one is a mixed board. In the middle is a late 18th century single chatelaine with a waist plaque up the top here. The gilded one is a waist plaque and an etui. And the etui opens. There's a button on the side down here and a hinge on this side. So the etui opens and your tools are all stored inside. That one's empty, but we have some other etuis that we can show you bits and pieces. And the one to prove that, well, this one I think is sitting on the fence. The left chatelaine is gilded brass, and it's got technically 3 chains, but then the chain in the centre subdivides into 4 items. So I think that was someone just hedging their bets when they made it. But this one's particularly lovely because of filigree work
Yes.
Very delicate.
Incredible.
Yeah, beautiful work.
And size on like the pencil and the like inch, what, half a
Do you
centimeter?
hold up
What
your hand, Carrie? So hold up your phone for reference. Okay, this is an iPhone that we are filming. So that's
Oh, those have some size to them. Oh my.
It's probably about 9.5 inches long.
Wow, those are big. I didn't think they were that big.
This is why they began to clank and be lampooned.
Yeah.
So did they ever
Wow.
make
Now
them
we're
out
moving
of
down.
gold then?
Yes, they did. I just don't think any of our members have a gold one. Or if they did, they didn't lend it to me. Damn it. We're now moving into 18th century steel chatelaines. And the waist plaque on this first one on the left is really intricate and beautifully made. And they are cut from steel and polished and just beautiful. And it has its original 18th century chains, but it has 19th century tools added to it. So it's been split up from being a watch chatelaine at some time, probably with little decorations and signet rings or signet whatever's on it. And this one has just...
sort of masculine.
It could have been masculine to begin with. And the tiniest little quill knife there.
Oh, things went still.
So things get
There we go.
lost over the years. And for the size of that little folding knife,
It's so
it's
small.
really tiny. It's about 1.25 inches.
Oh. And that one on the left, is that a button hook?
Yes, it is. So
Okay.
glove hook
Oh, glove
and
hook.
your
Okay.
watch winder on the right. The key is for winding a watch.
Oh, man. Wow.
The one in the centre
Yes.
next to it is bright polished steel from around 1800, probably 1790 to 1800. I love the star motifs on this one. And the centre piece has 3 extensions, but it would have held a watch originally. So the watch has been taken off or used in something else over its long history. And then when, as I mentioned, fashions earlier, when fashions revived and people could have waistlines that would support heavy items, they put Victorian tools on them. So this is one is probably 1840-ish with the tools. So on the right-hand side is a tiny ball tape measure. And it has a tiny handle on the side to retract your tape measure when you're using it. And the original silk is still inside that. Then a little needle case in the middle, thimble bucket and an acorn pin cushion. They're all in steel. And then the one on the right has been an 18th century chatelaine for watches. And it's got a beautiful little enamel plaque on the top with a couple of putty on it. It was very popular to have countryside and rural idyllic forms, and you would see them on wonderful etuis, the enamel etuis from this period. And there you can see the chains are in Matthew Bolton's catalogue. So they've used, it seems to be English, and the chains are still, they're in Genevieve and Nerola's book on chatelaines. There's a picture of that catalogue in it. They've got safety scissors added to the bottom, probably around 1850, and a little knitted purse with steel beads on it.
Carrie, I'm surprised that these things aren't coated in jewels. Was there a whole group of those that were?
Yes. They're just amazing. There's one in the book on chatelaines that has antique intaglio seals on it from Roman times, and someone set them each into little oval gold settings, then joined them together, and then made a long chain of them from someone's collection in the 1700s, and then draped it over the lady's waist, over her belt, and called it a chatelaine.
Hmm.
So there's a picture of one in the book and a picture of the fashion plate that shows one too. And on the top right here, we have a hairpin lace chatelaine. So the lady that owns this also has the hairpin lace to go with it, and you would use that tiny pin to form that lace when you're lace making, and then a tiny finger ring to wear it so you wouldn't lose it, or you could pin it to your clothes. And the centre one is a little knitting needle holder. So it's a chatelaine with a waist hook to hook onto your waist, and then underneath the waist hook you have a metal hook to hold your ball of thread while you're knitting. And then that key pulls apart in the middle to form the ends of knitting needles, because the original steel knitting needles were double pointed and had no knobs on the ends. So when you're knitting, you would put your needle protectors on the end, and there's a whole collection of them in one of these cabinets. And you could keep your knitting safe without losing your knitting falling off, and look great at the same time.
Wow.
Very quickly look at the last of the chatelaines.
Sorry? Oh, yes, okay. In the top centre is a pink silk, painted silk Japanese bracelet chatelaine, probably from around the 1900s to 1920s. I think 1920s. And on the right, you've got a heart-shaped pinwheel, and then you've got a little sheath in the middle of it. And this is still on the chatelaine, on the Japanese one, April. That's all right. And your little sheath to hold your scissors, which would have been steel snips. And then you've got just a decorative tassel and a little bag to hold your thimble. On the right is another ribbon chatelaine with a pin cushion behind, beautifully, finely crocheted work, and a little ring at the top to pin it to your waist, or to pop it over your belt and be held in place with a belt. And then 3 chains made of crocheted pieces with crocheted lengths in rings, and then ribbons through the middle of them. And then you've got a tiny crocheted piece at the bottom to hold a needle book and to hold your little thimble. And probably scissors on it originally, but they've been removed at some time in its life.
So we've been asked, what's the name of that chatelaine book again?
Chatelaines from Utility to Glorious Extravagance by Genevieve Cummins and Nerilla Taunton. And the next book is on antique needlework tools and embroideries by Nerilla Taunton. And then she did that book separately, and Genevieve has done a couple of other books on antique boxes and on watches and how they were worn. So they're all really well worth reading. If you don't...
Uh-oh, lost sound.
We lost sound. Uh-oh, wait.
April, we lost the sound.
I don't know if she can hear us.
No sound.
No sound.
Hang on,
Can you
we're on my
text her?
sound. Just 1 second, we'll get back to it.
Okay.
Where's that? Google. We've lost the link. Have we lost her entirely?
We have your camera.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah, we've lost.
I'm just gonna unmute. I'm just gonna mute it and then unmute it.
Okay.
God, why isn't it working? We're just gonna.
Gee, sorry.
Okay. Hang on. Following. I'm following you. I'm following you. You still need this. Okay. I'm just reloading Kerry's.
Okay.
About whatever's here now. In case that works. Because we're currently talking to my microphone, so you won't be able to hear her. Hers just went very quiet. I might just hang up. I'm going to hang up with Kerry's.
Okay.
Quickly call you back on that one.
Yep.
Let's close that. Why is that really not working? Got really quiet.
I don't know, but this is fascinating.
Yeah.
Love those chatelaines. I'm like, oh,
Okay, it's loading. It's loading. It's just loading very slowly. Can you hold this for 1 second, Carrie? Just hold it really straight up and don't. Let's quickly switch to data, Wi-Fi, data off.
I didn't know this stuff existed. This is amazing.
I think I saw some at the VNA
Yeah.
when we went.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Can we reassess? Have you got Carrie's phone again?
No, I do not.
Oh God.
Can you hear Carrie?
No, yep, it's just not on. All right, just gonna close that. Let's try that one more time. All right, I'm reopening that link.
Okay.
Yes, we would like to, oh, that's better, very much better things. Okay, join, connecting. Okay, I think we're back.
Oh, there it is. Yep.
Carrie, we're still connecting, hang on. Wait for it to come through and then, all right.
Okay.
Can you
got it.
hear us on that one?
Yep.
Carrie, talk. Okay, we're good.
Okay, we're back then. That's great.
Excellent.
So do you have any questions about any of the chatelaines so far?
Can we go, April, can we go back and look at that crocheted one? That thing was amazing.
Yes.
Certainly can.
We had one of the Embroiderers Guild members contacted the Guild 2 weeks ago to see if someone could identify an unusual piece that she had inherited from her grandmother. And it was 3 tiny steel crochet hooks that were on one handle, and you fold out the size you want to use that depends on the size of the thread. And so it was lovely. They sent it to me and said, what is it? And it was really lovely to find it's in the family. So they were very fine crochet hooks with very fine threads and a lot of workmanship in those.
Yeah.
Or to hold a pair of scissors that we'd put in a pocket these days. Or in a big bag. So April was just showing us a leather chatelaine from around 1880, which has just got a single waist with a hook behind it, a hook behind it, that sits over your belt. And then you can, there's buckles halfway down, and you can lengthen the chains, in inverted commas, straps to suit your height. And it's got scissors, thimble holder, and needle case on it, which is still wrapped in the original leather. And as far as even the leather on the handles of the scissors, as far as I know, they're French. I could be wrong though, but there is a leather basket in the Metropolitan Museum in New York, a leather sewing basket with leather covered tools that are virtually identical to these. So what we're looking at now is an American Indian sweetgrass chatelaine, though I think this one is actually pine needles rather than sweetgrass. And it's got a little ring at the top for you to pin to your waist. It's probably from the 1930s to the 1950s. The silk ribbon tends to shatter with time and light. And it's got a beautiful little thimble basket in the bottom and a lovely little thimble, a little scissors case, and then a beautiful pin cushion, which has got a basket to hold the pin cushion. And then it's got this larger basket with a beautiful ribbon trim on it. And you open that, and that's where you would keep your little balls of thread and whatever you were sewing with, your packets of needles. And they are so beautiful, and they're often made as souvenir items for people to pick up on holidays when they went travelling somewhere. And you buy it for yourself or as a gift for someone you love to inherit from. I mean, I didn't say that. And just below it is another much simpler chatelaine with ribbon with almost identical basketry on it. So it would have been an American Indian who made it, possibly North American from the tribes up around the border regions or across the border in Canada, but they're just generally referred to as North American Indian.
Wow.
You can see the tiny scissors holder, and I love that little loops, coloured loops they put on top of the scissors holder to show you where you should put your scissors. And it's so beautiful. And then the tiny thimble case and the tiniest little pin cushion ever. It's in a tiny basket with a pink pin cushion in. Next to that is a pink ribbon chatelaine, probably from the 1920s, and it's got its original little, they're all pin holders, but they're holding different styles of pins. So you've got simple dressmaking pins in the bottom piece, and then on the left, you've got, who knows what those pins are definitely for, and on the right are black pins. So I think it just must be the person that made this decided what they wanted to carry with them. And in the centre is another American chatelaine, and it's a grosgrain ribbon with a simple bow at the top and a pin to pin it to the waist. And then it's got its original tools. And if you look up the Daniel Lowe catalogues that are available online, I was able to date all the tools on that. And so the tools are an acorn-shaped emery on the left and with a silver cap on it, and that's dated 1900 in the Daniel Lowe catalogues. Just below that is a, I should say, pardon the pin, I'll remove that for this, and is a glove darner. And so the larger piece would go for darning the thumb, and the lower piece would be for darning the fingers of your gloves. And that also dates in the catalogues 1900. Then there's a gunmetal coin holder next to it. I don't have a date for that one, and the scissors are around 1900. And then the next tool up is often described as a needle holder, but in the catalogues they're described as a plaster. I can't think of the other word, but it's for holding tiny silk plasters to hide blemishes. And think back to the French courts in the 1800s where people wore little black hearts or diamonds or something on their face to hide pock marks or whatever. And this is for a similar thing. So it starts out as a finest piece of silk, and they're coated in isinglass, which will then, it's like a gelatin-like product, but from seaweed, I think. And so when you touch it to your face, a tiny piece of it to your face, it would kind of melt onto the skin and be held with little sticky contact. And so that's, your first idea of a tiny sticking plaster. Court plaster, C-O-U-R-T, P-L-A-I-S-T-R-E are the original term for that one. And so you sometimes see them with a piece of leather inside and 3 or 4 needles in it, but they're actually for the original court plasters. And then the top right, there is another acorn silver cap piece with wax in it for waxing your threads.
Oh.
And again, that's dated 1900. The court plaster case is dated 1901. So that's made on the juncture of 1900 to 1901 is when that person was collecting all those pieces. And they put them on a very black, simple chatelaine, possibly black. It might have been for mourning, M-O-U-R-N, mourning. But there's no information to go with that. It was just lovely to be able to date the tools so accurately and know that they were made at the time for that chatelaine.
Yeah.
So thank you, America.
April, could you go back to that glove darner? That thing is really neat.
They were available in the catalogues in about 6 different patterns. All the pieces you can see on these chatelaines would be in catalogues, and you would get in 1 year probably the same pattern 6 times on each piece. So you would get glove darners, you'd get pinwheels, you'd get needle cases, and you'd get thimble holders that all matched each other. So you could buy them from the jewellers or order them in from the jewellers.
Hmm.
Look at other darners while
Yes?
we're chatting darners.
Where did you want to move to?
Well, if we're since we're looking at a darner on the chatelaine, we've got a few other darners in the exhibition, which I'm sure you know about.
So in the front is another one of these silver darners, but in a different pattern. Glove darners, and behind are also glove darners. And on the right are sock darners and sock eggs and darning mushrooms. And then at the back left corner is a black lacquered darning egg with a silver handle. So they're all Victorian and later. The inlay timber in the egg and the mushroom to the right of that black one are what would be called Tunbridge ware, but I don't know if they actually came from Tunbridge. They're just a decorative timber work. And then further around, we've got Bakelite ones, and then there's a timber one on the left that is with a metal spring, with a steel spring on it, so that when you push your sock or whatever you're darning over the head of the mushroom, and then you put the spring on, it holds it in place and holds it tight for you to stitch. And then in front of that is a glass darner.
Now here's a story for you. Here's a story for you. That was my first exposure to needlework. My mother, we had a darning ball, and we had to all of us kids had to darn our own socks when we got holes in them. And
good on your mother.
Yeah.
Good on your mother.
And you learn in a hurry to do it right so your heel doesn't get rubbed raw. Yeah. Yep.
And also so that you don't wear your socks on concrete or stone.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
So your mother gave you skills for a lifetime.
Yeah. Oh boy.
And because you're American, I have to tell you about the Clemenson pottery darners. They're called darnets, and they are a pottery egg with a pottery handle. So it's all one piece, and they're painted to look like little 1940s housewives with little aprons. And then I've got a picture of them. I didn't think to bring them today, but I'm mentioning them because Betty Clemenson was a star in my book. They have darn it painted on them, so they're called darnets. But everyone was painted by a group of people, so that everyone has different colours, different flowers painted on their aprons or little collars or whatever. And then when you turn them upside down to hold the handle, at the top or at the bottom of the darner is a pair of bare feet painted on the bottom. So when you go to use your darner, there you are with bare feet looking at you. So thank you, Betty Clemenson, for a gift to the world.
How
Where do we
fun.
want to go next? Shall we look at this board?
Yeah,
At the top of this board are netting tools. So some of the sewing birds that are on display, the table clamps, also have a ring or a little knob to attach the start of your netting to. So you start with a loop of nets were handmade before machine made. So these date to about 1800. And the little cylinder box is heavily carved. It's from what was called Canton, and they have beautiful dragons wrapping around them. So they're Chinese originally and made for the English markets. And so because netting tools were used in England a lot, and ladies were using fine silks to make nets for their hats and nets for their face, little veils for their faces, they had them made beautiful so that the ladies would buy them. And below that case are 4 netting needles. Now, they're like a tatting shuttle in that they're open at the tips. So those tips are actually split on each end. And then you wrap your thread around them lengthwise on the shaft. So you've even got a tiny hole just here to put the end of your thread through before you start winding so it doesn't slip out. And then on the left here are the mesh gauges to measure the size of the mesh that you're making. So you start with a loop and you've got your ball of thread, and then you wrap them around one of those sticks in the size you want for the opening in your net to be, depending on how fine it is. And then you use that all the way down as you weave your net with your netting needles. And that controls the size of the net, so you don't get something with a great big hole in the middle.
Is that case ivory?
Yes. As far as I know, it is, based on the age of it. And it's hard to get bone to hold that fineness of detail.
Oh, that's just beautiful. The carving on that.
And they don't have to be perfect to be adopted. That one actually has a crack in the back of the lid.
Yeah, I
Very
noticed
carefully
that.
placed so you can't see it.
Yeah. Gorgeous.
So we adopt, and we're moving across to the other side because one of our members has this beautiful netting case, which is very simple. You might call it very plain, but it's very early. And so it's to hold all of your knitting tools. And that, sorry, the little brown one. Oh, we're talking about 1780 to 1800. And so it has a ratchet that lifts up out of the box. It's standing up at the moment, but it folds down for travel. And so you pull the ratchet up, and then you can use that rod to start your net on. So you wrap your first thread around there, and then you hold it. You might have a stirrup for your foot to tension a net as you get further along. But this has a lead weight. This box has a lead weight in the base of it to stop it slipping off the table when you're pulling on it to make your net. And you can see the drawer is open. There's even a little pin below that central rod that you pull up the pin to open the drawer, and it holds it shut when you're travelling.
Oh, wow.
Very plain, but very beautiful. They also made them in very ornate boxes, but this one I think is special because it's one of the earliest ones I've ever seen. So shall we continue over here? We'll do tambour hooks, tambour needles. These are 4 different ones, 2 mother of pearl and 2 ivory. So they date to around 1800 to 1820, sometimes even a bit earlier, because Madame Pompadour, in one of her portraits the year before she died, is using a gold tambour hook at her frame. Because you notice that she's got the tambour hook on the top and her other hand underneath to hold, to feed the thread on in the French fashion. The Indians do tambour work too, but they call it ari work, and they use a very fine ari hook, and they work on the top of the frame, and the French work underneath the frame, and they hold the tambour hook on top. They have very fine hooks that these all unwind and have hidden areas inside them. So if we go to, well, they all have caps on them, and those caps unwind from the metal ferrule, and once they're taken off, the hook is inside that, and there's a tiny, tiny screw that holds the hook in place. And you tighten that hook when you change that screw to hold your hook steady for working, and you store your spare hooks inside the other end of the case, which unscrews as well and has a hollow space inside for storing the hooks. Now, once you've taken your cap off, you then screw the cap onto the other end where there's a little screw area, and that lengthens it in your hand so it rests beautifully balanced in your hand while working. And the 2 below it, so they're 2 mother of pearl, and the 2 below it are ivory, a very plain one, but again, it's got the same, a little round screw, which is actually put away for safety because it was impossible to attach to the frame. And so the cap unscrews, screws on the other end. You've got a longer tool then for resting well in your hand, and you can do your work. And the one below it is just absolutely beautiful in its carving. And modern hooks tend to be plain timber. And a tambour hook is different to a crochet hook. It's got a sharper edge on it, and it's cut quite differently. These days they use shortened Cornelli machine hooks. And so here are some more beautiful tambour hooks. There is a, from the left, one of our members owns this. I drool when I look at it, a little tortoiseshell one. But I also remind myself that tortoise left us 200 years ago, so I don't feel so bad. And then another little mother of pearl one that's missing its cap. Then a beautifully carved ivory one with gold fittings. And then another plainer carved ivory. And then 2 silver ones that are most likely Dutch. There at the back. And way over the back in a little case is, what's the stone? So English and agate. It's got an agate handle and 2 different hooks to use. So it's unusual to find those, and it's unusual to find them still in their case. So that member is a very lucky lady with a wonderful eye for detail.
Beautiful.
Down the bottom of that, we're going back to that board, down the bottom, these are all lucets for making cords, but these are modern ones that are just put up for graphic reasons. The others are protected in the case behind us. But this just, the large one in the centre and then the smaller ones, one of our members was teaching braid making at a Jane Austen Society conference. And one of our other members made them for her, a member in Adelaide, in Melbourne, named Doug, made them for her and gave them to her as a gift so she could teach a group of people how to make a lucite braid, because there were no, at the times these were in use, in the 1700s, there were no braid making machines or cord making machines. And so your clothing did up with a lot of cords, lacing backwards and forwards and ties, cords to tie things in place. And so lucites were very important, and they were made in beautiful fruit woods. They were made in other beautiful, as beautiful as someone could carve something. So they're in mother of pearl, but you have to be careful if you drop them when they're like that. The timber ones are really, resourceful. You can just keep using them. So they're just on there. I told April it's not a coronavirus graphic. That is an artistic arrangement. Oh, come on, Gary.
That's good.
Mention the war.
That's good. Okay, 2 points. That's
Yeah.
good.
Very
well,
good.
3 points. That's artistry. And we'll look at the lucites in another cabinet. These are some beautiful lucites just here. So in the centre you can see a little ivory one, or it might be bone. I think it might be bone, the one in the centre, with an original cord on it. And there's a tortoiseshell one at the top, and each side are two very beautifully carved timber ones, so probably fruit wood.
Very pretty.
Mm.
Even those, just very
And-
simple, but wouldn't it be fun to have a little collection of different tools?
Yes. And the little one in the front is basically what we call French knitting these days. So you have 4 points on one end to make a cord, and the cord goes down the centre. Gary, I don't know if you had the joys of French knitting in primary school, but we did.
No, didn't have that. No,
You missed out.
I'll be okay.
Oh, I see. Yes. I just found a plastic one that my kids used to play with.
Sorry?
What's his name? I made one in primary school with a toilet paper roll and paddle pop sticks. That was my primary school experience.
I
Yeah,
bow down.
no one's collecting that anytime soon.
Good start. Next time there's a toilet paper shortage, you're ahead of the crowd.
I know. That's what they're all doing. They were French knitting all along.
It's worth a lot now. So shall we do the little etui boxes in the bottom?
Oh, yes. I love etui boxes.
Beautiful lacquered one on the back right with Ladies' Companion with more tools in it than you sometimes see. So it's beautifully painted and decorated. It's just gorgeous. And to the left is the smaller book-shaped Ladies' Chatelaine, leather covered, and also gilded and painted decorations. In front of that is a little porcelain heart-shaped one that's open to show you the tools.
Put a photo of the tools on the Guild Instagram if anyone wants more details.
Oh, good. And then there's a standard but beautiful little etui, probably French, that's in a beautiful burl box. So the box is just stunning. Plain box, but beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Has a little metal shield in the lid. You could get them engraved if you wanted.
Well, this
Now
stuff
we have
is,
some,
this stuff is just a collector. Oh, I can see why you guys do this. Oh,
they belong to so many people, and we
Yeah.
go to meetings and you have show and tell, you have a theme and a speaker for the day, and then you have show and tell. And the people say, oh, I've got one of those, I forgot. It's put away in a different cup. Oh, I love these. I'm drooling, but you can't touch. So we see some wonderful things at our meetings. So we meet regularly, and we have groups in Melbourne, in Adelaide, and an unofficial, a social group who meet in Brisbane. And we all love our time together.
yes.
And we have speakers from outside and also specialist people who are doing research on needlework tools. Because when you want to know about what something is, you just have to find out.
Yeah. Now, speaking of which, I have never come across these bracelet thread holders. What's the term for them?
Bracelet thread holders.
Love it.
These, this particular one in the middle is filigree, probably Dutch, and they were very popular for holding your, if you didn't wear one at your waist, you could have it over your wrist. And you could also show off your hands beautifully, gracefully while you're doing your work. And that could do your knitting or whatever work you were working on. And these are various silver ones from different times and different shapes, different materials. There's even one at the back left with a stretchy band. Reminds me of the bands that used to be worn to hold your sleeves up or while you're bicycling.
I feel like they'd catch your skin, those ones.
I think that might be a child's one. But all with suspensions that would hold your balls of thread. And something very special, belongs to one of the members who owns a couple of these, is that beaded one over the back. That is just extraordinary for the workmanship and the beading.
Those are all beads? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, minute, tiny, tiny glass beads and steel beads. I don't know, there would have been a size 15 or smaller needle to go through those, and the finest threads.
Hmm.
So did you have any
And we
Palais
have-
Royale etui or tools?
Not here today.
Sure.
A number of our members do have them, but they're not part of this particular exhibition because we stuck within a certain group. The first group to be decided on was sewing birds because April said, please, please, please. She loves sewing birds. And she's responsible for the artwork that advertised it, which is really lovely.
Let's have a look at sewing birds. They're fun. Yeah.
Well, there's one final thing in this case. Little hem gauges, shall we say only in America. As far as I know, the British didn't make them. It's an American invention to have these tiny hem gauges, and you still see them around these days in sewing machine shops where you can get a steel version of, or, you know, a simple version of this. But these ones are from around 1890 to 1900. I recognise the one at the back with a fancy head on it, I think is a Webster. And next to it, closest to April, is a Pelouse, P-E-L-O-U-Z-E, company in Chicago. And I don't know who these other ones, I think the Daisy one might be another Webster, but I don't know. They're not mine. Would be nice to have them. We all drool a bit over these things. And then in the bottom of the cabinet, there's some Victorian reel stands.
Oh my.
So they were very popular for having on a table to show your friends how wonderful you are. Some of them come with, these ones are all English, or the two large ones are English, and I think the smaller one is American.
Very supple decoration.
So that'd be perfect for having our Vera Soie spools.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Make me one, make me one. I've seen one
Yeah.
that belongs to an American member of TCI that's actually got 4 levels on it. I've never seen one quite as ornate as the one she's got.
Hmm.
So these ones have got 2 levels and 1 level on them. And you pull out the pins, the large metal pins there that have cherubs, or the smaller one on the right has got Mother Goose and a little, what I thought was doves, but I think might be geese. So the figural characters move around, and when you pull the figural character up, it pulls up the rod that holds the reels into place.
Hmm.
Oh.
So you can change your reels.
I can't
Some of
even.
them
I
also
can't
have-
even imagine a meeting of you guys, all you collectors. That's got to be just mind blowing. Oh.
If you want to hear discussion of minutiae, that's the place to be.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Did you want to look at knotting shuttles?
Yeah.
This cabinet has got knotting shuttles, some Avery needle cases in it. and more the knitting tools. So these knotting shuttles are around probably 1760 to 1800, and they're made from ivory, from mother of pearl, from blonde tortoiseshell. There's a silver filigree, there's a wooden one, and there's another plain tortoiseshell one behind them. So you're asking about Palais Royal. To the right is a Palais Royal needle holder, little mother of pearl one. That's from the Palais Royal box. So they're all needle holders on the right there. And there's a little tatting etui at the back, little suitcase to keep all your tatting pieces together. And below that are more knitting chatelaines and knitting needle holders up the back. And then below that is knitting sheaths, the wooden ones on the shelf below at the back, and also the silver ones are to hold your knitting safe. The wooden ones you could, you'd rest the needle in one end and hook it to your waist or behind you, under your belt, and then you could walk around or do other work, freed up one hand. You didn't have to hold the other end of the needle. And it also took the weight as the knitting got heavier. It supported the weight as well.
So my favourites are the little shoe ones.
Yes,
So
they're gorgeous. They usually have an elastic or a ribbon in the middle so you don't lose them, but also you put it on one end of your needles and then you stretch it across and cap the other end of the needles because they're double-pointed needles in those days. They're also souvenir ones. So these couple here, there's an enamel one, double one, but these single ones here to hold you ones are what they probably call spar work with tiny, tiny stone inlays. And then you've got some other beautiful silver ones. They made fish, they made dolphins in any shape that you could think of.
Mm-hmm.
The little ones down the bottom are pigs.
Pig's trotters, yes.
Oh, is that what those?
Well, why not?
I wondered what that was. Okay.
Okay. Is there a vegetable ivory behind the Palais Royal needle case?
It
Someone
might
has
be.
sharp
They're not
eyes.
mine.
It's engraved.
Oh, the round one is vegetable ivory. It's just darkened with time. They're made from the tagua nuts and calves. So that's the centre one of the five there. I think the one next to it might be bone or ivory, and then the mother of pearl. Then again, those beautiful miniature beads. And at the end is a mitrailleuse, which you spin them around. It's got various cylinders inside, and you spin them around to choose the size of needle you want. And then you tip it, and the needle comes out the hole that you've chosen. Yes.
Oh.
And up the tops are just a couple of the butterfly Avery needle case. It's hinged where the wings meet the body, and the wings lift up, and you can put packets of needles inside because there's little, remember dressing paper dolls? How you, well, maybe not you, but when you cut out paper dolls as a child, there would be little tabs on the sides to fold onto the doll, the cardboard doll, and that would hold the clothing in place. That's the system they used on these Averys, is just a folded brass tab to slide your needle packets into. So when it's resting flat on a table, you can lift the wings up and your needle packets are presented to you in 4 sizes. And William Avery was an amazing man who I think had something like 100 registered designs. And that's, go to coulthart.com/Averys. It's a website of an Avery collector in the US. And she's done a lot of research and then had professional researchers as well to do the Q, go to the Q archives and search for her in America on patents and stuff. And because William Avery was English and he came from a needle making family that were feeling the pinch as more and more English needle manufacturers, popped up. It took part of their business away from them. So William Avery, the son, came up with a wonderful marketing tool for marketing their family products. So why sell one packet of needles when you can sell 4 packets of needles in a beautiful case, and ladies will come back to you to get the same packets of needles when they run out? So well, not before his time, a man of his time, brilliant at marketing. And you wouldn't believe it. I mean, other companies made them too. You've got things like the Millwood company Millwood and Sons made the beautiful fan-shaped needle case that folds up and has coloured card sleeves inside it that you put your packets of needles into.
Hmm.
So, do you want to visit some sewing birds?
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
We've got thumbs up from April.
Looks like there's
Can I
one vote
start?
for that. Yes.
In this cabinet, down here, is an unexpected sewing bird. It's on a lady's sewing compendium. The eagle on the bottom right on the floor belongs on the top to cover that little area for holding your thimbles and everything else. And it's got a Waterman sewing bird welded to the front of it. So to me, it looks like a bride's basket that has had various items, little picture frames, little sweetmeat holders, all attached to it to turn into a lady's sewing compendium. The eagle would normally be on top, but it's down because it's a bit heavy and this is getting a bit old. And there's also a ring of reel holders around the top piece as well. So it really is a lady's sewing compendium completely.
And what's the age
And
on
yes,
that
it's
one?
from America. That, the lady who had it made or who designed it had it inscribed with her name and the date, patented 1st of June 1860. But we have a mystery on our hands because the patent for a sewing compendium on the 1st of June 1860 is not in her name, it's in the name of, I'll think of it in a moment, a gentleman, Dana Pickford, and he patented it, but it's different to this one. He starts out talking about sewing birds and then says, oh, but we'll put a clamp on the bottom instead of sewing bird, easier to attach. So while he's extolling sewing birds at the beginning of the design patent, he changes his mind at the end. So I think there might be a question mark about that because he was also involved in the patent infringement later in his career, which he lost the case. So we'll leave that. I found a picture of Lovey Drew, who had her name engraved on that. I found a picture of her, right area, right age group. There are a few other Lovey Drews throughout the areas, but they weren't the right age to be doing needlework. And so I found a picture of that lady through genealogy, and I found a picture of Dana Bickford, and Bickford or Pickford, might be Pickford, sorry, Bickford, and, you know, we'll wait and see what else we can find.
Interesting story there.
Yes, here we have birds under glass. Served up for your enjoyment. On the left is the North sewing bird, designed by John North and patented in the USA, and it's the butterfly. And when you press its tail, its mouth opens to hold your fabric. It has a tiny pin cushion in front that's in basically a little flower-shaped holder, and it screws to the table, has a table clamp. Next to it is a Gerald Ward bird. Its wings are folded. So the one that we think of as the iconic sewing bird was patented. The first patent for a sewing clamp was by Charles Waterman on the 15th of April, 1853. These ones came along a few months then, a couple of years later. So the Gerald Ward Company is slightly different in how it operates, but very beautiful as well. Then we've got what I think is the English dog, a spaniel. When you press down the lever at the front, his mouth opens. He has little teeth to grip the fabric and hold it for you. That's a replacement pin cushion. Originally they were thinner and a buff colour. Then we have, I'd have to look under the wings of that one. I think that one, if it's got solid wings or impressed wings, the little one is either an English sewing bird from 1855, or if it has impressed wings underneath, hollow wings, then it's the, sorry folks, an American department store, Fields, Marshall Fields,
Marshall Field. Yeah.
made them in silver plate and also in, there were a few made in sterling silver in 1890.
Hmm.
And then next to that, I'm sorry, I misidentified the sewing bird next to the butterfly. That's the Merriman design and patent from the US. And then back to next to the little one is the bigger one, and that's actually the Gerald Ward one because it works on a different method of holding it. And when you press the tail, the entire body tilts, and it's called an anvil action because it looks like a little flat anvil, and you put your fabric under the beak, not inside the beak. And then it would have a pincushion in the egg-shaped opening in the front.
Hmm.
Now we're getting into the romance of the needlework tools. You've got this gorgeous little cherub who must be looking at his girlfriend, and there's even a cherub on the thumb key. Now, he's beautiful because when you push his back foot, there's a hinge underneath his knee, and his front foot lifts up to put your fabric underneath. You could also pin your fabric to the pin cushion on top if you wanted, or just keep your pins and needles there. And then he holds a reel of thread in his hands, and the cushion he's kneeling on also is hinged at the back, and it flips open. You can move the whole thing to fold it open in half, and you can keep your little packets of needles inside it. And then you've got your little G-clamp at the bottom with another little cherub for the thumb screw. The little gilded one next to it is the English sowing bird, called a hemmingbird in England. And this particular one is rather iconic for the English ones. It's dated 1855. Some of them have the date stamped underneath the wing because the wings are solid, not hollow. And some of them have the date under the left wing. So I always refer to it as the political sowing bird because it's a bit left wing. And it has a little pin cushion cup on top of the barley pole.
Wow.
Now, if we start at the top left, we have dolphins, also shaped like sea monsters in those days, cast iron and cast bronze, with pin cushions on top and beautiful thumb keys to hold the clamps together. And there's another dolphin on the right, only this one's silver plated. And next to it is Santa's favourite sowing bird, a reindeer. And that one is unusual. I think it's German, and it rotates 360 degrees on that central swivel.
Hmm.
When you press the reindeer's antlers, its mouth opens. It's got little ridged teeth to hold the fabric in place. Very decorative thumb keys. Now here we have an antique and a fake, or I should say reproduction. On the right is a cast bronze antique, and on the left is basically cast pot metal with chrome and a brass bird in it. And it's almost the same, except the bird faces in the wrong direction.
Hmm.
But if you see it silvery or chrome down the bottom, it's probably not one of the antiques.
Oh.
Now, April and I voted this guy as the most beautiful sowing bird known, the gorgeous frog. When you press the lever on the left, there's a hinge underneath the whole shebang there, and he tilts back and his mouth opens, and you put the fabric in the frog's mouth. There would also be a pin cushion on top, and these are just some other little steel ones and various other ones from different times. The two on the right don't have, one on the right has its wings folded, and the one here is an early English one with its wings partway out. Then we've got another little, one of the mini ones, and behind that is a waterman. And then in the centre, we have, not complete, but it's a Tunbridge ware one, a timber one, carved timber with a little book shape. And next to that, so it's around 1800. And then next to that is a cowrie shell on a simple steel stand. So that would be 1780 to 1800. when the explorers were in the southern oceans discovering the tropical things. That would have been a rare shell in those days because they weren't known in the northern hemisphere. And then to the left of that is another waterman sowing bird on the right side, or left and right sides. Both sides are waterman birds with slightly different shapes and ways of putting the ones without, before he introduced the pincushion holder. And the centre one is, I think, what's the name?
Oh, we lost sound again, April. She mute herself.
Phone turned
Oh,
off. Let me.
Oh,
I think it's died actually. We've
okay.
been going for more than an hour, and I think the phone has definitely died. Carrie,
Okay.
if you want to come next to me, and we'll chat about this final one. So this is my favorite one in the whole exhibition.
At the end of a long day stitching, you might need a little drink, mightn't you? And this is a Munich child holding a beer tankard and a turnip, dressed as a monk. It's around 1850 from Austria. And it has a pin cushion on the right, and they're standing on a four-leaf clover in brass with a greetings from Munich or Munchen. Yep, in German, and a beautiful clamp or stand underneath it.
Wow.
I like that too.
That's
That's
a good
very
one.
nice.
That's a good ending piece there, April. Well done.
You can see why I like the German beer drinking,
Yes.
but also sewing
Yes.
and also travel, piece. So
Yep.
sorry for going so long, but
No.
there's
No.
Oh,
so many
my.
bits we could look at.
That was a blast.
And
Thank
all
you
of
so
these are just
much.
basically the forgotten ones.
Yeah. I know. I was thinking as we're going through that, this is a narrowing down of what's available. It's got to be.
Yeah, I was culling yesterday. Oh God, I've lost the camera. Camera, come back to me. Even that's turning off. So there we are. So yeah, hope you enjoyed.
Oh, thanks so much.
A little bit
Yes.
different.
That was a lot of fun. Thank
So
you.
have a look at our website at the links pages, because you'll find links to the other societies too.
Okay. All right. We'll do
All
that.
right.
And enjoy Needlework Tools.
Hey, Carrie, thanks so much
Bye.
for doing that. Thank you again, April. That was just
Thank you.
terrific. Yep. Thanks a lot.
You're
Okay.
very welcome.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
See you all. Bye.
Bye.